Hello, Rich Friesen here with another edition of Rich's Reframes. And today we're going to talk about something really important, and that's tax rates. Now, normally what I do is I will take a complex picture that has interactions, has complex adaptive systems inside of complex adaptive systems, and create a very simplified viewpoint that you can look at that complexity from a very different point of view. And of course, whenever you simplify something like that, then that means that, of course, on many levels, it's untrue. But what it does is, since our brain wants to simplify things anyway, it gives you a simplification that may work better for you. So today we're going to talk about tax rates and revenue. Now, a long time ago, Art Laffer made a curve that said when there is the tax rate is 0%, you're going to collect no tax revenue. When the tax rate is 100%, nobody's going to work and you're not going to collect any tax revenue. So here it is behind me. So I want to point it out that here is 0%. And here is 100%. And here is how much revenue that we're going to collect. Now, currently, you can see this yellow dot here. This is about $3.5 trillion. And our tax rate overall average is about 25%. Now, you can dispute exactly how much revenue we have and whether it's 25% depending on what type of averages you use and so forth. But that's not the critical point. Now, here's what I want to talk about. My libertarian and conservative friends, they go, the Laffer curve. And what they will do is they will point out that at 0% a tax rate, you get no dollars. But as it goes up to about 10 or 15%, you maximize the revenue. And then after that, as you increase the tax rate, the revenues keep coming down until you get to 100% and you get no tax revenue again. So they're saying that because lower taxes, people respond to incentives, that the economy grows, that people can look forward to a future of being able to keep their income. And as a result, you get the maximum revenue at around 10 or 15%. And of course, everyone can disagree. But that's not the end of the story, as you might guess. My progressive friends who really care about everybody and want more equity and who feel that there is a huge amount of money out there. It's so much money, it's not theirs. There's this wealthy group and it should be distributed more evenly to create a better world for everybody. And to do that, they want to raise the rates. So let's take a look and see what they want to do. What the progressive wants to do, and what he says is, as you increase the tax rate, you increase the revenues. But this is where we are right now. If you increase the rate even more, the tax revenues keep going up until you get to, let me get out of the road on this side here, until you get to around 70 or 80%. And then maybe the revenues go down because people don't want to work for nothing. Okay? Now, what you see here is a huge gap between the red and the blue. That is a huge difference. Now, normally in Rich's Reframes, I would say, okay, here's the absolute truth because I, Rich Friesen, know it. And I was going to share it with you. But this time, I want you to do your own reframing. Where are you in this scale? Now, I want you to think for a moment and think a little bit more deeply about where you would be, how much you would work, how much incentive you would have, how productive you would be as the tax rate goes up. Now, I would also ask you to ask your business friends and other people to say, hey, if 60% of your income was taxed, would you change your behavior? Would you make less money? Would you try to make more money? Try to find out where that is so that you can draw your own line. Okay? Because this is important, because the new administration coming in, it says it wants to raise the taxes on the wealthy. And if we do that, it's going to have a major shift in the economy and will impact not only just the wealthy, but it'll impact everybody. Okay? So there's a couple other things. Nothing's quite this simple. All right. So we're going to add a couple of more variables. So what's going to happen as the tax rates go up? The special interests, the people with a lot of money, are going to be flying their lobbyists to Washington, D.C. Now, we know this is true because, like, for example, in Silicon Valley, originally, Washington kind of left them alone, and they kind of left Washington alone. But what happened is Washington, when they saw all that money, they says, there's a lot of money there without us. You guys aren't listening to us. You don't give a you know what about us. We're going to make you really pay attention to how powerful we are. So regulations, taxes, we're talking about monopolies and breaking them up. We're talking about all sorts of different regulations. And what happens? That the tech companies are pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into lobbyists and campaigns and everything to protect themselves. So then the question is, we're going to take a look and see what happens here to the yellow line. It's crony capitalism. As the tax rates go up, the wealthy are going to be spending more and more time in Washington and getting special favors. And if you don't, well, that's a question. Do you think politicians are all of a sudden, with a high tax rates, going to be these wonderful angels? And when somebody says, hey, we want to create a PAC that for $100 million for your next campaign, do you think that politician is going to say, no, I'm Mr. Smith goes to Washington, and I don't want to take your money because I really want to do what's good for the country. Now, if you believe that, given the history of politicians, whoa. But like I say, this is your frame. You can do with what you want. Now, one final consideration. What happens when the rates go up? Well, let me ask you a personal question. You just whisper it in my ear here? Yeah, just whisper. Oh, in my ear here. The left and right is backwards on this. So whisper in my ear. Have you ever cheated on your taxes? You have? Oh my God. Even with the tax rates under 50%, you've cheated? Just a little here and there? Yeah. Well, what happens if the tax rates go up to 55, 60, 65%? Are you going to cheat? And do you think anybody else will cheat? Do you think we're going to get cheating on a scale like you've never seen before? And what happens when people start to cheat? They become criminals. And Washington and the federal government is going to, the IRS, God, they're going to land on you so hard. But you're already a criminal. So we're going to have a lot of people that are going to see themselves as criminals, stepping outside of the law. And once you step outside of the law here, maybe it's easier to step outside of the law here. So we're going to create a new class of criminals. Now, you can draw that line wherever you want, how much cheating there is. You can draw the crony capitalist line, wherever you want. You can draw the progressive line, wherever you want, wherever you think that the tax rates are going to have the most revenue. And if you're a libertarian, you're going to be able to draw this line too. So now I am not going to give you the answer. Now, of course, I know the absolute truth. Rich Friesen, the one guy in the whole world who happens to know the truth. But I'm not going to tell you because I want you to do your own work. You draw these lines wherever you want. Now, here's something interesting. If you look at the progressive line and you think that's correct. And then you talk to all your friends and talk to business people, and you see, well, maybe the line is really more like this. Then the difference between given some rational thought and emotional thought, this is your revenge area. This part that says, well, even if we don't make as much revenue, I'm going to sock it to those wealthy people. And if that's the case, I'm not making judgment. No judgment. I don't judge, but I invite you to be aware of how much of your tax rate is driven by revenge against those awful, terrible, wealthy people, and how much is rational to create more revenue for the government. So this is Rich Friesen. I'm not going to do the work for you this time. I'm not going to give you the reframe. I'm going to let you do your own work. Make your own reframe from this chart and decide, with the new administration coming in, what are you going to tell your representative, your senators and your congressmen? How are you going to respond to them and tell them where you think the best tax rate is? Rich Friesen with Rich's Reframes, and you guys and gals have a most wonderful day figuring out where the tax rate should be.